This panel discussion today is part of our continuing ICAP 2 project. This semester, we work with Indiana University on this project, and this semester our focus is on Africa. And so a panel discussion today, and I would like to introduce from Indiana University, Dr. Maria Cruz-Ngate, and she will introduce our panelists.
Thank you very much. We're very pleased to be here, and of course, some of you have seen me and I've seen you, so I'm glad to see you again. And anyone who comes later will be welcome. We'll just continue. And so today, these are all IUB students from different African countries. And the reason we called this panel, Africa is not a country, is because often in people's minds, at least subconsciously, Africa is this homogeneous continent, which of course it isn't, although there are patterns across the continent, social values and so on, but there are also considerable differences, environmentally, socially, culturally, and so on. So what we decided to do today is each of the students, and all except Aisha, to my right here, is our graduate students. Aisha was an Ivy Tech student. She's now at IUB. And they will be saying something about themselves, just to a brief introduction, some background, to highlight similarities and differences. And then each of them decided on some bit of information about their country that they want to share with you. So the idea was not to give an academic lecture, but just to provide some points of contact that may be of interest to you, that you may not have heard about in the news and so on. So I will begin with Aisha, although she will be speaking last. This is Aisha or Aissata Touré from Senegal. And next to her is Beatrice Okello, who is a Swahili instructor and a PhD student in linguistics. Next to her is Godfred Antwi from Ghana, who teaches Akan, a language spoken in Ghana, and is doing a master's degree in African Studies. And next to him is Taiwo Ehineni from Nigeria, who teaches Yoruba and is a master's student in African Studies as well. So with that, I will hand it over to them, and then they will take questions or comments at the end when they're done. So, Beatrice.
So good afternoon, everyone. So where I come from, when you say good afternoon, people say good afternoon. Okay, good. So my voice, I hope you'll be able to hear me from the back. This call, where I come from, it doesn't get this. Right. So like Professor Maria Cruz-Ngate mentioned, my name is Beatrice Okello. I come from Kenya. I've been in the US since 2007. August 3rd, I still remember that day, in the University of Wisconsin-Madison. I came for my Fulbright foreign language assistant in Swahili. After that, I went back to Kenya, came back again to UW-Madison for my master's in African languages, literature, and linguistics. 2 years there. For my master's, decided to go down to Tennessee to take a break from books. Then now I'm here for my PhD in linguistics. So today I'll be talking briefly about schooling in languages in Kenya. And just to start, what we have right there, that is a map. That is a map of Kenya. And just to put it in context, where Kenya is, the arrow points where Kenya is. Kenya is in East Africa. The equator cuts right across Kenya, right? So we can have very warm weather sometimes, but depends on which part of the country. To our west, we have Uganda, then down south we have Tanzania, and we are right around, surrounded with beautiful countries like South Sudan, Ethiopia, Somalia, and the rest. So, about languages, there are many languages in Kenya, around 42, languages, and in this case I'm talking about indigenous languages that are not including English. Kenya is an ex-colony of the British official language is English, and the co-official language to English is Swahili, and the national language is Swahili. So just to clarify what I mean by national language, that Swahili is the language that Kenyans, recognize as this is our language. So that you have one home right here, they speak language A. Another home beside it, they speak language B. At home, you speak language A. When these kids go out to play amongst themselves, they'll speak Swahili. When they go to school, they need English, right? So the medium of instruction usually is English, and then I'll talk more about that in a bit. Then also Arabic and Hindi are also spoken because of the migration, around the 18th century, migration around the east coast of Africa. And then in terms of education, the education system is 844 to mean 8 years of free primary education. Initially, when I included free, initially it was not free, to mean you had to pay to go to primary school. And primary here is equivalent to elementary through middle school. So it's from first grade to 8th grade. Right, so for the past few years we have free, as I say, quote unquote, because the students still need to buy books and school uniform and other things, but in terms of school tuition and fees, that is not, they don't pay for that. In terms of language use in the primary schools, depends on where the school is. If the school is, say, in the rural areas, remember like in Kenya, like many other African countries, different regions, the languages, like for example, say the Western region, you find people who speak a particular language, one language. So I would call that the language of the catchment area. So assuming that, for example, for me, my first language is Luo. And so where I come from back in the rural area, the language of the catchment area is Luo. Therefore, for first grade to third grade, the children who go to that schools in that area, they'll be taught in Luo. To me, they're taught math in Luo, they're taught history in Luo, but of course with Swahili, together with Swahili, and Swahili is taught as a subject area, just like we have religious education, just like we have math, and English is taught as a subject area too. Then slowly English, they continue using more English. By the time the child gets to 4th grade, it becomes all English. Everything is instructed in English except Swahili. But if it's in a township area, most of the time they start with Swahili, then slowly they start inculcating English. By the time they get to 4th grade, everything else is in English. And that is the case until you get to 8th grade. After 8th grade, they take an examination that is called Kenya Certificate Primary Education. It's a national examination that is taken by the students from the whole country, does not matter where you went to school, and that is what determines whether you make it to high school. So in Kenya, it's not a matter that going to primary school does not mean necessarily you can make it to secondary school. Right, so then we have 4 years of high school education, and the language of instruction is English, except of course for Swahili. Swahili is still taught in high school. Then we have a minimum of 4 years of university education, so that makes it 8 for 4. For those who don't make it to universities, there are different colleges, community colleges, and other tertiary kind of education, like technical areas like learning how to make hair, learning how to sew dresses, and so on and so forth. Well, we're all familiar with the saying, it takes a village to raise a child, right? And I just chose to twist it a little bit and say it takes a village to educate a child. What I mean by that is that for us in Kenya, as a Kenyan, we view education as whole-round education. It's not about formal education. That's not where education begins. It begins right from the time the child pops out. And that's the time education begins. So it's right from the home, the mother, the father, some family members, training the child to know who they are, to know how to be respectful, to know how to contribute to the society. And in terms of the schooling in primary schools, most schools, children walk. Like I remember my days when going to school, we walked a long distance to get to school. I went to nursery school in Nairobi, which is the capital city of Kenya. I didn't walk that much. Then we moved back to the rural areas, we walked a long distance. Sometimes we have to wake up by around before 5 I'm up. The rooster is crowing, that means it's time to go, right? Because sometimes you need to be in school as early as 5:30 or 6 to do what they call preps. Like you prepare yourself, you study on your own before the normal learning begins. So it's very, very rigorous. Kids really work so hard in Kenya. And like you can see, they have the beautiful uniforms, so every school has a uniform, right? Every school has a uniform. Some of the schools, for example, the first one is girls' school. Some of them are mixed. Some of them are boarding schools. But most primary schools are day schools. To me, they go in the morning, they come back. Then I just chose to use this saying, education is the key to life. I took it from a Swahili proverb that says, elimu ni ufunguo wa maisha. Elimu ni ufunguo wa maisha. Elimu, education, ufunguo, what you use to open your car or your door at home. Maisha, the big thing, life. So I chose to put it there. To me, by the time someone gets to high school, you now really know what you want. You start thinking of now what next, what do I want to become? Because when you're a kid, you say, oh, who would you like to be? What would you like to become when you grow up? But in high school now, you really try to, you know, you are old enough to know what exactly you're doing and the importance of education. And so, still in high school, they wear uniform, they do different kind of activities. I try to use different kind of features. They also have a lot of fun, a lot of sports, you know, a lot of things like music festival, drama, and other activities. But this is really where someone kind of future starts to shape up, because most Kenyan, actually in all Kenyan high schools, by the time you get to Form 3 is equivalent to 11th grade. So when you get to high school, so primary school ends at 8th grade, right? Then high school, we start counting back to 1. We start saying form, F-O-R-M, Form 1. Sophomore, we call it Form 2. Junior, right? We call it Form 3. Then senior, we call it Form 4. By the time you get to Form 4, that is 11th grade, you start choosing elective subjects that will shape you to what you want to do in college. So that is really when now maybe you want to go to more science-oriented courses or more arts-oriented courses. So that is high school. Most of the high schools are boarding schools, and most parents choose to take their kids to boarding schools because they feel they are away from instructions, you know, peer, you know, that you know, the youthful exuberance and all that. They can just be away from their parents and just concentrate. But we still have mixed, day schools. Some high schools are mixed, boys and girls. Some of them, for boarding schools, most of the time they are not mixed, and for good reasons, right? Too much, yeah. So just to avoid that, you know, it's better. You know, that's it works better that way. Then as I wrap up, this is now the 4 more years of university education, and I just say let's get education. These are just what I was putting there. I hope they make sense. Let's get education, let's get innovation. Because by the time you're in the university, you really know what you're doing. And already your people around you, the society is looking at you with expectation. Because you made it to university. And one thing maybe I forgot to mention, in high school, the 4th year, like the same year, there's also a national examination that you do. It's called Kenya Certificate of Secondary Education. So very rigorous. It takes almost a month to take the test. Like, I'm talking about a month, right? And I'm telling you, it's one rigorous test. I tell my students back at IU that you take the test and an ambulance is waiting outside. Because anything can happen anytime. Someone cannot take it anymore. Understand? So it's not that bad like I'm putting it. What I'm trying to say, the system of Kenya is very rigorous. It trains you to just work at it, So after you take the exam, your results will determine whether you make it to university, 1. 2, if you make it to university, what will you study? Because making it to university is one thing, but you don't just go there and then say, I want to do medicine. Speaking of which, in university, here when I came here, I was surprised that I have my students who take, say, bachelor's in biology and chemistry, and then later they want to be doctors. I'm like, not in my country. In my country, you do bachelor's of medicine. So you really had worked hard for it. That's almost like perfect scores to do those kind of courses like medicine or law and all that. So we have beautiful pictures. We have a lot of fun in our universities and a lot of, the midst of a lot of reading, and the graduation usually is either the month of October, November, or December. Well, depends on the university. And just to mention, in Kenya we have 6 public universities, and for the past few years we've had so many private universities just come up. So So there's more opportunity for university than before, because initially we only had a few private universities and then the public universities. And to make it to the university, public university was really, really difficult. You have to go through what is called joint admission board, which they really scrutinize they have a very strict criterion for you to make it to the public universities. So the private university opens up to more people. They may be a little bit more expensive, but now education becomes more accessible. For the public universities, we have what we call HELB, that is Higher Education Loans Board, that supports students who need loans to go through the university education. So I think I will stop right there, and then we will take questions later. Thank you.
Hi, good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
I'm Godfrey Osei from Ghana. That's the west part of Africa, as you can see. She is from East Africa, far away from the west of Africa. I don't know East Africa. I've not been to East Africa before, and I don't think she has been in the western part of Africa before. So I'm from Ghana, and that's Ghana where we are bordered by Ivory Coast, Togo, then Benin. Then we have our counterparts, Nigerians, who are also there. I'll be talking about soccer in Ghana and national unity. But before that, I had my bachelor's education in Ghana, the University of Ghana. Afterwards, I did my service as a high school teacher. I came to the US just last August. I made a fall semester. That was on the 30th of August, 2014. Yeah, and I'm now teaching. I can also a student at IU. So soccer and national unity in Ghana. I would like to talk about the history, brief history of soccer in Ghana. Soccer was introduced to Ghana by the British in the year 1882. They are our colonial masters, so when they came, they introduced soccer, in Gold Coast. By that time, Ghana was known as the Gold Coast because we have abundance of gold, in Ghana, so they used to call Ghana Gold Coast. Then in 1900, the first official Ghanaian team was established. And in the 1920s, the British introduced the first formal competition, soccer competition in Ghana. In Ghana, we don't say soccer, we say football. Right? Then on October 29, 1950, the United Gold Coast Amateur Football Association was formed. And when Mr. Dakwa became the first chairman and Mr. Richard Akwe, the vice chairman, their task or their role was to organize sports competitions and promote and regulate inter-club competitions throughout the country. Before that, we had sports associations or soccer associations at the district level, regional levels. But in 1950, they met together to have the national association, and their task was to organize and promote soccer competition in Ghana. And in 1957, the association was renamed Ghana Football Association, because in 1957, Ghana got independence from the British, so became independent country in 1957. We have to change the name from Gold Coast to Ghana. I would like to talk about the organization of soccer competitions in Ghana. In Ghana, soccer starts from the grassroots. The villages, the rural setting. You don't need a sports stadium or a soccer stadium, right? You can just play anywhere once you have the space. You don't need soccer boots and all those stuff to start playing. You can start playing at any time you want to. So we have what we call the inter-schools competition. And with the inter-schools, we have the elementary school, and we have the middle school, and we have the high school. Well, the elementary and the middle school, what they do is that in the community or a town, you may have about 10 or more elementary school or middle school. So what they do is that they play in the schools. They have about a week of soccer competition. And afterwards, the school that emerges as victorious represent the town at the zonal level, right? So right from the zonal level, the team that comes out as victorious will represent the zone at the district level. Then from the district level, you play at the regional level. Then from the regional level, they go to the national level, what we call the national zone champions. And we have 10 regions in Ghana, so we have 10 teams, each from each region in Ghana. Then in high school, We don't have more high schools in most of the communities, right? In my community, you have just one school. So with a high school, what they do is that they play at the zonal level. They start at the zonal level. At the school level, what they can do is inter-houses or inter-halls. We have like 4 halls in a school, so they play there. They form the school team, and the school team will play at the zonal level, then they move to the district level, to the regional, then to the national level. Then some of these guys or footballers are selected to play in the academies. So we have soccer academies throughout the country. We have soccer academies. And from the soccer academies, some players are selected to play in the Division 3. The Division 3 occurs in the regional levels. So we have, Eastern region, Western region, Greater Accra region. Every region has its own Division 3. And from there, the best teams in each region are selected to play what we call the inter-regional, Division 3 competition. From there, you move to, the teams that emerge, the 3 teams will move to Division 2. And Division 2 is still at the regional level, right? So every region has teams, and they play. Afterwards, 3 teams are also selected, or they're promoted to Division 1. Division 1 is national. It's national level. So we have about 16 teams that plays in Division 1. And at the end of every year, 3 teams are promoted, the best 3 are promoted to join the Premier League. The Premier League is like the MLS in the US. So 3 teams are promoted to join the national, and 3 teams are relegated from the Premier League to Division 1. The bottom 3 are pushed down to Division 1. I will talk about the national teams in Ghana. We have our men's national team, the Black Stars. We've met with the US on 3 occasions. We were victorious 2 times, the last one we were fortunate. Then we have the Black Meteors, the Black Satellites, and the Black Starlights. And with the women's team, both at the elementary, the middle, and the high school, we have women's team also. So with the men's team, we have the Black Prince, the Black Princess, and the Black Maidens. Now I would like to talk about achievements in terms of soccer before I move to the unity aspect. Now on the international scene, Ghana, the senior national team, we've won 4 African Cup of Nations, 4. And we are the only team to play in the semi-finals 5 consecutive times. Now from 2008 right to 2015. We've been to the semi-finals 5 consecutive times. And also, the Black Star is the only team in Africa that has won most of the African competitions. And in terms of trophies, we are just second to Egypt, which is unfortunate. But we've been to more finals than they. We've been to 9 finals in the African Cup of Nations. Then in the junior side, our under-17 team has won the World Cup twice. In 1991 and 1995, our under-17 team won the World Cup. Then with our under-20, we won the World Cup in 2009, where we played against Brazil in the finals, and we defeated them in the finals. We won, the 2009 under-20 World Cup, and we've been twice runner-ups, and that was in 1993 and 2001. Then at a club level, we have 2 main teams that have been special, Kotoko and Hasselhoff. Kotoko has won the inter-club competition in Africa twice and has 1 time. Now, before we move forward, I want to talk about some famous Ghanaian soccer personalities in Ghana. The first one is Abedi Pele. He played for Olympique Marseille in the 80s, and he was an 3 times African Footballer of the Year. And he has been the 9th best player in the world before. Then you have Michael Essien, who now plays for AC Milan. He won the Champions League with Chelsea. Abedi also won the Champions League with Marseille. Then you have Asamoah Gyan. Asamoah Gyan prevented us from going to the semi-finals in the 2010 World Cup. And when he missed the penalty against Uruguay, that was unfortunate. So we're going to progress to the finals. And we have Kodjo Asamoah, who plays for Juventus. Now, Stephen Appiah, he was the captain in 2010 and 2006 when we defeated US. In 2006 we played US in 2010, and this guy was the captain. Then we have Sule Alubuntali. He plays now for AC. He has also won the Champions League with Inter Milan. Then we have Anthony Yabua. He was a striker, one of the talented strikers we've ever produced in Ghana. Then the guy there is Andrew Ayew. He is the son of Abedi Pele. He now plays also for Marseille. And he was the captain of the under-20 when they won the World Cup in 2009. Now, soccer and national unity. First, I'll talk about multi-party unity. We have two main parties in Ghana. The other parties are all right, but we have two main, the MPP and the NDC. And every time you turn on your radio or television, what you hear is political debate. I mean, whatever the MPP would do, then NDC has something to say about it. And whatever the NDC would do, the MPP has something to say about it. But when we have like soccer competition, when the Black Star, the national team is playing, we put our political colors down, and we all, take our national colors. So we see everybody coming together, MPP, NDC coming together, and during the season, the football season, there will be nothing like political debate on the media. So we hear everybody talking about soccer, and people coming together. Then interfaith unity. Ghana, we don't have religious problem too, but we have about 70% Christians, about 20% Muslims, and 10% the traditional believers or whatever. But in times of soccer competition, you see, we have Muslims, Christians, and the traditional people coming together, singing together, right? Supporting the team, singing songs. They can sing gospel songs, they can sing several songs. But outside football, you won't find a Muslim singing gospel songs, right? But when there's time for soccer, Christians, Muslims come together and they sing songs. You watch the players. We have Muslims like Waka, Susulu, Mutali, they are Muslims. We have Asian, Asamoah, they are Christians, but they come together, they sing together, they enjoy together, and that's unity. Then we have inter-ethnic unity. There's always the tendency for one ethnic group to think that they are better off than other. And Akan, in Ghana, Akans are about 50%, so the Akans, I'm an Akan, so at times Akans, we think we are far better off than other minor ethnic groups. But in terms of sports competition, there's nothing like that. We come together and we all we see ourselves as Ghanaians, because during sports competitions, you go to the cities, the streets of Accra, you see people in the national colors, and everybody's kind of supporting Black Stars. And so what I would say is that soccer in Ghana is like, the passion of the nation. Ghanaians love soccer. Thank you. Thank you.
My name is Taiwo Oluwashioyin from Nigeria. I came to the US in 2013 for the first time as a Fulbright scholar. I came to teach Yoruba in IU, and it was a wonderful time. I had a wonderful time in the US. That's why I came back. Because, yeah, of course, I went back home, and then so I'll be talking about Nollywood. People have heard about, everybody knows Hollywood, right? But there is Nollywood, which is Nigerians, and it has a version of Hollywood, something like that. Yeah, so Nigeria is at the west, it's in West Africa, and then it's the most populous country in Africa, about 174 million people, and then we have about 36 states, and then we have about 500 languages, and about 50 ethnic groups. So it's a very large country. Yeah. So I'm talking about Nollywood in Nigeria. So the idea of Nollywood is Nollywood began from street plays, community plays. People gather and have plays, this kind of streets, and people gather in a place and they kind of perform, like all these rural performances, and people buy tickets to come in, and gradually people were getting more interested. And they felt like, well, we need to make this thing a big deal. People started expanding, and now we have a very big industry that everybody all over the country is able to perform. Once you have a talent, then Nollywood is there for you to manifest your talent. So that's Nollywood. Nollywood is a Nigerian-based movie industry. Although Nollywood has also extended its tentacles across Africa, because Nollywood is concerned about African values, also talking about African culture, African traditions, realities in the African socio-economic, socio-political environment, and then, but it's basically Nigerian-based. So we have a lot of people who come from over Africa, like West Africa, also East Africa to star in Nollywood. And CNN, according to a report from CNN, is the largest movie industry in the world. I think you have Hollywood, Bollywood, and then Nollywood. So it's very large, and because you have a lot of people coming in to the country from Nigeria, and outside Nigeria, everybody's interested in Nollywood. And so I think, and it's also one of the major employer of labor in Nigeria. So I'm going to be talking about Nollywood and how it has really helped in transforming the country and the social benefits of Nollywood, both in Nigeria and also in Africa. Now, the first thing is Nollywood promotes indigenous talents. And then most of the people there, these are figures that have been recognized internationally. I think the second lady there, this Omotola Jolade here, she, I think last 2 years she was named, she was part of she made the 100 most influential women in the world. And she started from Nollywood. And there are people who are now known in the world because of what they did in Nollywood. So the idea is Nollywood promotes indigenous talents and gifts. We try to identify people who are good. If you can do something unique, either something funny, you can sing a song, compose a poem, you have a talent, you don't really have to be educated, so to speak. If you have a talent, then you can be able to function in Nollywood. Because in Nollywood, there are movies in indigenous languages. There are movies, it's not only English. So there are movies in Yoruba, there are movies in Hausa. Of course, in Nigeria, we have about over 400 languages anyway. But there are movies in different languages that people can watch. So it serves the large populace of the Nigerian community. So once you have a talent and you can do something unique, then Nollywood is there to help. So this idea of promotion of indigenous talents and gifts. And it's also a vehicle of social integration. Most of it, because Nigeria is it's a very big country, and you find the north, the east, the west. But in Nollywood is kind of a community of different ethnic personalities. People come from different areas to Nollywood to act. So you don't have to, because there's no Nollywood East, there's no Nollywood West, it's just Nollywood. So people come there with an open mind. You know, you will find actors in the same movie from different regions of the country. And that promotes this kind of national unity, apart from Nollywood is a place that people come together, stage a play, you find a Yoruba man and a Hausa man talking together, then discussing. So it promotes national unity, social integration, people come from different groups. Because at times, the picture I showed earlier on about promotion of indigenous talents, most of the people there come from different aspects of the country to Nollywood. So when people come to Nollywood, they have this kind of open mind to do something unique, to project themselves, and everybody helps each other to succeed in producing a play or producing a movie. The promotion of job opportunities. Because now imagine a country of about 170 million, and the government doesn't have so much, they don't have a lot of resources, so to speak, or the government is not able to take care of the vast majority of the population. So not everybody will be able to get particular jobs. Of course, not everybody can work in the office, not everybody can work can go to politics. I don't have the strength anymore myself, so not everybody can, but people can also work in Nollywood. So it provides, because at times, there are some places you can't work in Nigeria until you have your PhD, or you have your master's, or you are really educated. But in Nollywood, because there are different kind of movies that you can really participate in, then you don't have to have a PhD to come to Nollywood. So it provides equal opportunities for everybody. As long as you have a gift, then you can do something in Nollywood. So there are different kinds of job opportunities people engage in Nollywood. People really can be involved in acting a play. And you have so many producers coming up, okay, somebody has a film, I want to talk about this and that, and then this kind of a vacancy, people try to participate. Or people also sell the movies. There are people who live, who get their daily bread from selling the movies. Because in Nigeria, we watch Nollywood a lot. And also in Africa, a lot of people who watch Nollywood a lot. But no, I like Nollywood too. Everybody loves Nollywood, yeah. So because people we know. So you find a lot of people all over the streets, people moving in. We have a lot of companies that sell movies from Nollywood. And that provides a form of job opportunities. If you finish from high school, you get what are you able to do? You are able to go to the college because you don't have enough tuition, or you cannot pay the money so expensive. Then you can be doing something in Nollywood and getting something to survive before you can go to college. So Nollywood it has really helped in providing socio-economic benefits in the country. And then the expression of cultural values. Culture, every society has its own culture. And then in Nigerian society, we have our values, we have our virtues, we have our beliefs and our traditions, and even in Africa at large. So one of the things Nollywood engages in is trying to express our cultural values. If you watch a Nollywood movie, you can know a lot about Nigeria. You can know a lot about Africa by watching a movie. So even if you are not able to go to Africa and watching the movies, like you are seeing Africa, you are seeing Nigeria through the values and through the virtues that we project. This is like a Yoruba, maybe because I'm Yoruba. So this Yoruba, you find somebody who's drumming and a woman who is dancing. So you find much of this in Nollywood too. Like a lot of cultural, like project culture, project tradition. You know a lot of things about the African society through Nollywood. So I have this to Nollywood more than the film industry. Because originally the idea of Nollywood is let's have a film industry. People kind of perform, people act different roles. But you find so many things that Nollywood is doing in Nigeria and Africa at large. Nollywood because of at times the government is not able to address the needs of everybody. Because the government cannot provide jobs for everybody, and also because at times people want to work, but they don't have the opportunity to work. Maybe they don't have the qualification to work. But Nollywood is that kind of place where you don't really have to be, you can really work there. It gives you opportunities. So that's what job opportunities, and basically some of the things I've talked about. So social integration, job opportunities, cultural values, and talents and gifts. So we recognize indigenous talent. Once you have a talent, once you have a gift, we just come to Nollywood. And because in Nollywood we have an office in Nigeria, and then you could write, come there and tell them, okay, I feel like I can do this, I can do that. Okay, somebody come for an interview, this looks like, okay, this is what I can do. And then you already have a job. Yeah. So then you do something, and you are paid based on, you can really act in different, you can perform in different places. Maybe in the week, at times you have different places in a week. Because there was a time, I think, one of the things that made Nollywood to be really so successful is because young people, when they leave school, they come to Nollywood to do something. Even some of them are studying in the university and also working in Nollywood. Because in Nollywood, we don't have to, it's not like an office job. We just go to the site and perform maybe 2 days, and then you go to class and work in school. People study, work, also, so it's done a lot of things for the country. Thank you very much.
Hi everyone. My name is Aisata Toure, but people call me Aisha. I am from Senegal, a small country, and I have the honor to speak last because I can talk about territories too. I I came here 3 years ago because my mom was working in the U.S. Embassy in Dakar, and when she retired, she got a special visa, and I came here with my mom, my sister, and my dad. But my dad is coming; he's going back. So, okay. So, as the title of this event suggested, Africa is not a country, it's a continent, and it has 53 countries. Senegal is a French country. So my first language is French. And I graduated from high school over there, and I came here. I went to Ivy Tech for 2 years, then I transferred to IU. My major is community health pre-med school. So talking about the educational system, we have the private system and we have the public system. I went to the private system. I went to 2 private schools, actually 3. Then I went to those 2. Then I went to a special school because I wanted to go to the medical school, so I had to move from my school to another one. This is Place de l'Indépendance. That's where we got our independence from. And this is downtown Dakar. I live in Dakar. I'm from a big city, Dakar. I'm gonna say that's the biggest city in Senegal. So Dakar attracts a lot of people from around Senegal because they probably want to get a better life, better jobs, so they come in there. But it's not obvious because they might not find a job because Dakar is a small city. Limited resources. So even if everybody comes there, it is not safe that you're gonna get a job. So for those who are coming in Dakar and do not get the job, they usually try to keep busy or just get some money by playing soccer. We call it football too. So this is one of our sports, and it's Rally Dakar. A lot of people from different countries are participating. I personally want to participate, but my brother does not want to. And our national sport is wrestling. This is the traditional way how we eat at home. So we have different ethnic groups, a lot of ethnic groups, and each ethnic group has its own language. Some ethnic groups are really stuck to their roots, so they want to keep doing what their ancestors have been doing. And at lunchtime, dinner time, breakfast, we all sit around and then we eat. And that's our national sport, and it's called wrestling. Yeah, obviously the one on top is Elena. So here, this is for the big houses, because sometimes you can find in a house grandparents, aunts, uncles, cousins, but it's gonna be a really big house. In my house, personally, it was just my father, my brother, my sisters. But I have 2 more cousins. They came from Senegal, yeah, and they live at home. So if it's a big house, you're gonna divide it like this: 5 big plates, and then you serve the food, and they're gonna go around like the previous pictures and just eat together. So those who cannot find a job, this is our traditional tea. It's called attaya, and it has several rounds. The first round is really strong. So if you don't like strong coffee or you do not drink it. The second one is less strong. The third one, no, I'm going for the fourth one every time. And because I don't like strong things. And so when they cannot find a job, they would just sit around, have someone do that. And they can spend the whole day over there, just talking about news, what's going on in the country, you know. And we call it Baljahne because they know that they don't have anything to do. I have more slides though. Okay. Well, I guess I'm gonna keep on going without my slides. I wanted to talk about celebrations because Senegal is a country with 96% Muslim and 4% Catholics. So usually, I mean, we live in a community, and I say that because my two best friends are Catholic, and I know a lot about Catholic celebrations. Every time that they have their celebration, I will go there, and when we have our celebration, they will come over. So I know a lot about how it's going. I know about Christmas, Easter, and everything that is going on because I've been going there every time they will celebrate something. So you would not say he's a Muslim, he's a Catholic, and I think that's a great thing because we just live in community. In the group, you could just find 2 Catholic, 3 Muslim, but that's not a very big deal. We do not talk about religion because it's not really important. And in conclusion, I can say that Africa is really diverse. You know, I'm from Senegal. She's from Kenya, Ghana, Nigeria. Okay, and we are really different, but we share common values, and that's a great thing because if you come from Senegal and you go to Ghana, you will find some of the values that were at home. Not necessarily the same ones, but it's going to be common to what they have. And I think this panel also was great to talk about Africa, especially for some of you who do not know that much about Africa. You would have learned almost one thing. I mean, at least one thing. Africa is not a country, it's a continent. And we have 53 countries. You don't have to remember all of them because I do not. But yeah, thank you all for being here.
We have a little bit of time for questions or comments about anything that was said or other questions, things that weren't addressed at all. And you can ask directly the panelists or throw something out for anyone to answer. And maybe one thing I wanted to add to what Tyler was saying about Nollywood, I think what is important to remember is that the digital revolution in filmmaking has been really crucial because that has opened it up and made it possible for so many filmmakers and producers to emerge and for Nollywood to become what it is. In addition, of course, to the talent and participating as he was talking about.
I have a question about the Nollywood. Religion didn't come up in the discussions, and I don't know if what the religion is in Nigeria. And I'm wondering, does that influence what is done in Nollywood in terms of what kind of films are made and so on?
Generally, not to a very large extent.
What's that?
I said not to a very large extent. Yeah, because it depends on, because we have different producers, so it depends on what the producer wants to show. If a producer wants to give a film on Islam, then maybe ask the Muslims to kind of perform in that kind of play. And if a a producer wants to, of course, there are Christian movies too. There are Muslim movies, there are traditional movies.
I think I was thinking more in terms of limiting what you can produce because of religious beliefs within the country. Do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
That, as I was thinking about, let's say, in the Middle East, it might be very limiting to have something such as Nollywood because there are maybe restrictions. So I was just thinking about it in that.
Yeah, in Nigeria, people, because religion is there, of course, but in Nollywood, to me, it depends on what the producer wants to do. Because there are certain films that, like general films, talk about civilization. There are films that talk about culture, and there are films that talk about like religion. But they don't really show this kind of religious conflict. A film could just talk about the values or the virtues of Muslim religion. And a film can talk about the values of Christian religion or traditional religion.
And is Nollywood, can it be compared to Hollywood? I mean, in terms of the whole, yeah, okay.
Yeah.
Because there, you know, you make films about anything and everything.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
They make films on different diverse things. And I think every week they have like 50 movies comes out every week.
Wow.
Yeah, every week.
Yeah,
About
it's just
50
interesting. I'd never heard of that.
Yeah. He's the third largest producer of film
Yeah.
producer in the world.
And they're showing all over the world.
Yeah. And at times, now there are a lot of films that are produced even in London, that films are produced in the US. So I think there's this film called Last Flight to Abuja. Last Flight to Abuja is a film that they also, because Nollywood is also talking about issues around the world, not only African issues. They're talking about issues like plane crashes, issues like, they also talking about issues like Boko Haram. And when Ebola came, I was surprised when I saw a film on Ebola. So when Ebola came, then there was a film on Ebola trying to talk about that Ebola is not Africa, basically. It's just like a disease. So it's not black.
Right.
Ebola is not black in color.
Yeah.
So they're trying to sensitize the world, get people more informed about Ebola. So Nollywood tries to address issues in the society. It's like a voice for current issues in the society. So
Does it push for social change like it does in this country, where we'll produce a movie on, let's say in the 50s, a pregnant lady, which was taboo in that era, and they'll make a movie about a single pregnant lady.
yeah,
And the things evolve to where we are today. So does it push the traditional issues?
yeah, exactly. There's this producer called Tunde Kilani, and most of his films are concerned about social transformation. So you have this film that talks about culture, but the goal of the film is to use culture to address issues like to decry excesses, maybe top-level excesses in government. So government issues like that. For example, there was a film on Boko Haram, and the Boko Haram film was, Boko Haram was, the terrorist group. The film was trying to talk about who is Boko, like tell people who is Boko Haram and how the government can address the issue. Because people feel like when the Nigerian government is not doing anything. So Nollywood now feel, okay, since the Nigerian government is not doing anything and the masses don't know what to do, then we can tell the government through our films. So there's this kind of revolutionary idea also in Nollywood, apart from the issue of culture, there's the idea, this kind of need for social change that you find in some of the Nollywood movies.
Exposes a lot of things.
Yeah, there's a lot of things, a lot of excesses. For example, in the Boko Haram film, because people felt, okay, Boko Haram is about Christians and Muslims fighting, but it's more than that. It's not just about Christians and Muslims fighting. It's also it's more than that. So the film is trying to say, okay, this is what people have thought about Boko Haram. This is really what Boko Haram is doing, and this is how government can help. Because most of the people who make the film are the people, not the government. So it's like the people voicing out their idea through films.
Have you seen a Nollywood film here in Bloomington? Have they shown it locally?
Yeah.
within-
Yeah.
We've had some on campus.
Okay.
Because actually one of the faculty members who is from Nigeria, he focuses on film, he's a specialist on film, and he screened some mentioned, he was here in Bloomington
Okay.
in fall 2013, October 2013, and we screened one of his films at the IU Cinema, and we had a panel and so on.
Thank you.
Yeah. And I think the film, Mami, that was the film.
Yes.
And the film also talked about social political issues in the country.
So it really, as he was saying, addresses issues in society. You know, some are romances, you know, others dealing with basic social issues, but also broader issues.
And the last flight to Abuja was a film. It was a film that talked about there was a plane crash and nobody expected. And this was a time in the country whereby there were so many plane crashes. And we were wondering, why are there so many plane crashes? Do we have, is it that the pilots are not trained, or what's really wrong? And then Nollywood would say, okay, we need to ask to say something. So and then there was a movie, and the last flight to Abuja. So it's like, because most of the people who had the film are the people in the community, so this is a way through which they are able to express their own mind, like give the government ideas on what to do, or let the government know how they feel about what's happening in the country through their promises.
Last question, sticking with Nollywood. Just curious, when Hollywood produces some number of movies each year, they're virtually all produced in English. So in Nollywood, do we have a wide diversity in terms of languages? And if so, what does that do in terms of commercial success? You know, I mean,
I think that first of all, Nigeria is, we have a lot of people in Nigeria. We have over 400 languages in the country and about 250 ethnic groups. So there are films that are English based, where you have English is used, but there are also films that are made in Hausa, films made in Yoruba, I mean that's my native language, and films made in Igbo, so that you can meet the needs of the diverse country, you know, the diversity of the country. So you have to make it that people who can speak English, people who are maybe in the community, but they feel like they also want to know what's going on. So we have films like that also in Yoruba, films in local dialects, where people can get to watch and see what's going on.
I ask about that because I recently encountered, and I can't cite where I read this, but I think it was a news article about the number of languages that are currently spoken in the world and predictions that in the next century, 90% of those will be gone. And one thing that pushes that is, in this particular case, let's just take Nollywood and the wide variety of languages. I would guess, maybe wrong, but I would guess to be commercially successful and to export movies outside, even outside the African continent, that you try to find a common language that might, work, English or others, or Spanish.
Yeah, in Nigeria.
And that might marginalize then other languages. That's the thing. I'm just curious.
Because in Nigeria, English is our official language. At least a lot of people can speak English or pidgin English. So even when you have a movie in the indigenous language, then there are subtitles in English, such that people can, different kind of, the needs of people are being met. Local people can watch the film, and those who don't understand the language can see the subtitles and match it with the action. So this has also affected it.
Well, I guess that's what I was going to kind of go piggyback, I guess you could say, off of what he was saying, is that there's a lot of the American film industry, people don't realize, you can have a film here that fails, but they'll say the worldwide box office, it didn't fail. We export a lot of that, but we do it by being clever with what we call dubbing and, of course, subtitles. Are there a lot of Nollywood films that are dubbed into multiple languages, or is that not as common as it is with like Hollywood films?
That's not
Okay.
so.
That might change the game a little bit too.
Or you could have like, even when you could have like a main film, everything's Yoruba. Then we have a subtitle in English.
Okay.
So, or you could have a film in English.
I have a kind of a follow-up question on the different languages. I think you mentioned about 42 different languages. You mentioned over 400 different languages. And I was wondering, are these different languages, are they completely independent independent languages, or do they all have, or are they dialects of one common language, or do they have common ancestry in terms of language?
Right, that's a good question, right? And still brings us back to what Aisha was mentioning about Africa is not a continent. The same thing that many people they hear the many languages and think of dialects. So it's good you're bringing this up. So these are independent languages. Like when I said 42, and I'm saying at least 42, which are still living there, you know, they're languages that are still being used up to until now. They are independent. Of course, in terms of talking about like, you know, proto language, they come from somewhere. Just
Right.
like you have like Romance languages, you have Germanic languages, right? But does not mean that if you speak Portuguese, you speak Spanish. But in terms of proto language, you have some common ancestry. So they are independent. You wanted to understand what the other person is talking. So assuming you're driving from here, we're going to let's go to Indianapolis, right? So by the time you get to Martinsville, there's a new language altogether. You get there, you want to buy something, you're like, okay, what are they talking about? So that's where national language, in case of East Africa, really works, because we have Swahili. You get to Indianapolis, it's a new language altogether. You don't understand what they're saying. They can be talking about you there, and they're giggling and laughing, and you're also laughing, but you don't know, what they're saying. So just to answer your question, these are independent languages. These are independent languages. But definitely we have dialects too. So say one language can have, say, like there's one language in Kenya that has 17. Like it's a language called Luhya. It has 17 dialects. But still, some of these dialects, the issue of language and dialects, and I should not keep talking because it's a linguist. I can go on and on. The same issue of Mandarin, Chinese versus this and that, you know. Some people would argue one is a language, some people would argue they are dialects. So some dialects, even though they're dialects, depending with how close they are even geographically, they can be so hard to still, they're not necessarily mutually intelligible, although technically they are mutually intelligible.
And actually, I'd like to add to that is what people here often don't recognize to what extent, I'm sure, that's why I'm saying is as Beatrice, her own example shows, her first language is Luo.
Right.
So she goes to school, she learns Swahili, if she hasn't learned it before. She also learns English. And so someone goes through high school and can know 3 languages or maybe more. And in areas with where people of several different ethnic backgrounds who speak different languages are together, she may be also learning another language in addition to Swahili. So people often, know 4 languages very readily, and we forget about that. We're so used to everybody speaking English, or maybe Spanish now. I mean, now we go to the airport and everything is in Spanish, also at least the announcement. But it's not known about Africa, and I think that's really important.
Right, and actually, by the time you're even 6 or 7 years old in Kenya, you speak at least 3 languages. Because you speak, say, that you go at home, Swahili in the neighborhood, English in school. So when I came here and someone said we speak 1 language, I was like, okay, I was trying to figure out, you say you speak 1 language, because it was new to me. Like, what do you mean you speak 1 language? Yeah, so because I was like, I thought it was just normal to speak. But, yeah.
It's kind of the same thing too in Nigeria, because now that you have about 4 languages, people have their indigenous language. You go to school, they have to learn. Maybe, for example, in Nigerian constitution, is there that in the National Assembly, English and 3 main Nigerian languages should be used. So while you use English, you also use other indigenous languages. So people are fluent in their indigenous languages, and they also learn other foreign languages because of international recognition. Because if you leave your country, then how do you communicate with? Learn English, and you also learn French. In Nigeria, English is a second language. It's not a second language. Why French is people learn French as a foreign language. But English is our official language because we have not been able to get a national language because of the issue of, now if you have 4 languages, then how do you make a choice? Because when you promote a language, that means you give the people who speak the language power and you give them prestige. So other languages become relegated. So if you decide to choose Yoruba, then other people will protest. So the country has not been able to know how to solve the issue because we don't want another world war, another Nigerian war in the country. So So that's why, okay, let's allow it. English is a neutral language, so people keep using English because it doesn't belong to any tribe, or it doesn't belong to any community. But we still speak our indigenous languages. We learn English as a
This is a totally different question, because Americans don't like to learn languages very well. My question is, how is the United States of America viewed over there now in Africa? In the Middle East, nobody likes us. And did the election of Barack Obama as president change or affect the perception of America?
That's a good question. Yeah, so speaking of from Kenya, like I tell my students this, like growing up watching TV, all the cartoons were American, you know, Tom and Jerry, that's what we watch, Home Alone. And I thought every boy in America is like that boy. Yeah, so just to answer your question, like for example, the father of the president comes from Kenya, comes from a village actually. For us, with that election, we felt like actually we did an election before you did yours, because Kenya is 8 hours, there's 8 hour difference. So by the time we were still sleeping, there was like a mock election in Kenya. It was so serious. And for some reason, Barack Obama still won there. And I think we had one vote for the other person, I want to mention that. So what I'm trying to say, people hear you are in America, they hear you are in heaven. Everyone wants to come here. They hear America, they see green money is falling from the tree. We just pick them. So I have friends who still ask me, you know, are there scholarships there? Is there any way you can connect me to come to the US? Very few people know really that here you also have people who don't have so much, or you have to work so hard to have that plate of food on the table. So in my country, people like, oh, America's superpower, that's where life is happening.
And so I think that it's because of the media.
Right.
Because what they're showing on TV and what is in reality, it's completely different. I'm not saying that what they're showing in the media is false, but there's something else that they should show.
Yeah.
Because when you're showing in the media, every time, positive things, people might think that there is not negative things on the same subject. When I came here, when I first came here, I was 6 years old, so I didn't know anything about here. It was just for vacation. But when I came here 3 years ago to go to school, then I had a different point of view of America, because what I used to see back home in TV and what I saw here, I saw homeless.
Right.
We have that in Africa.
Right.
And in Africa, what they usually show on TV, animals, trees. So that's why I understand the questions actually. Because a lot of people would ask you, do you have beds? Do you have internet? Do you have that? Do you have that? And if you don't understand, then you might get mad, because you're like, why are they asking that? Of course we do have that. But you have to live in Africa, be here, see different things, and then to be able to see the difference and see what the reality is versus what they're showing in the media. So for someone who's in Africa, who's never been here, of course they're gonna, I want to go to America. But once you come here, then you see that in Africa there are good things, but there are bad things too. In America, that's the same thing. So it depends.
Yeah,
Yes.
I mean, to add to that, I do agree with them 100%, but there are, other side to it. There are people, especially in Ghana, that, they have good, they think good about America. Everybody wants to come to America, but also they think that when people come to America, they tend to be kind of individualistic. They tend to kind of forget about their family. They tend to be so, independent. And, that's not the culture there, because there, we are kind of socially united. Your brother, your extended family system works, and if you are growing up in a neighborhood, you know everybody can go to your house and do everything together. But when people come here, then they tend to be kind of, they want their privacy. So people back home say no. People go to America and now they come back, they are changed. They become new persons. So they like to be here, but they also think that when people come here, then suddenly they change. Because maybe when you're in back home, you're kind of moving with people, doing things together. When you go, you want to kind of, yeah.
It frightens me that any show that we call a reality show in this country might be considered a reality show anywhere else in the world. Because even in this country, it's not reality. Kim Kardashian, I don't understand.
Yes, we're in Europe on a trip, and the number one TV show that they were watching at the time on a daily basis in the homes was Jerry Springer. And they thought that was weird. I want to ask you about Kenya.
Right.
What's the graduation rate in high school? You said that, I mean, it seemed like it was, the standard was so high. What,
Right.
how many fail and what happens to them?
To be honest, I don't, in terms of numbers, I don't have like maybe on the top of my mind, but many, they still make it to like tertiary level, but the intake rate is very, very, very strict. Like for you to make it to, especially public university, is a hard job, to get through that. But like I said, right now there are so many other universities which are private and they're more flexible. And also in public university, like we have what they call parallel education, that you can still make it there even though you need to make that cut-off point, but you have to maybe work for it to maybe do another extra year before you get there. So most of the time, someone who makes it to university, say like 12th grade in Kenya, like very, very smart, will come here, will join a college, third year of college, and I see what we do at home and what my students do here. To be honest, it's a big, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I think we have the same thing in Ghana. And last 2 years or so, I mean, those who completed high school, their pass rate was 31%. So about 69.9% of the students failed. And when you fail, you have to rewrite. There's a remedial program that you have to do.
Yeah.
You register as a private student, then you write it until you pass.
Right.
Other than that, you cannot.
Cannot.
Right, and they have the grading system from A1 to F9. To go to the university, you have to get at least a C. Right, so, I mean, if you fail, then you have to rewrite. Other than that, maybe you may have to go to vocational application, or you may have to do anything else.
Do the high school kids have an option to go to like a trade school, carpentry style school, machining, stuff like that?
There are vocational schools who go there to learn trades, who go there to some like carpentry, all this kind of things.
Would that be like an alternative for the high school? Or is it, do you actually go to like, because like with American vocational schools, you go to high school at the same time, and then you do like your vocational classes like a some part during the day.
In Nigeria, because I taught in high school for like maybe 2 years, and there are people who finish from high school and then go to vocational. But the kind of subjects they take is different from those who wants to like go to study medicine. Because the subjects we take is also based, the subjects we take is based on where you want to concentrate. So those who want to go and study law, we take art, something like history, government, social science. But those who want to go to medicine, something like biology, chemistry. Why those who want to go to the vocational track, we take other things like to technology, carpentry, woodwork, do some of these things.
So in high school, you can really like tailor yourself to what you want to go to.
Exactly. And most of the time, because when in Nigeria, when you apply to a university and you want to study medicine, the university system will be looking at, the admission board will be looking at how do you do well in science subjects. If you do well more in science subjects, and if you don't really do well in arts, in art subjects, then you are still able to go to university. But if you do well in art subjects and do less in science, then you're like, well, if you are not really good in science, it's better you go to art, because you should have a good background where you want to study.
So I'm glad to hear you have beds in Africa.
Right.
I'm glad there's water.
Oh,
I'm
yeah.
glad there's internet. You have any music?
A lot of music. You can say that again. Yeah, because talking about music in Africa in general, if I'm allowed to say that, is we don't separate music, dance, and all that. You hear it everywhere. Growing up, you know, time to sleep, there's a song. People are working, there's a song. People are somewhere, someone can start singing spontaneously, and there's nothing like audience and the person performing. It's an active or special. So the first time I went to a concert in the US, I was wondering what's wrong with what's going on? Are they feeling, you know, what I'm feeling, the music? I want to stand up, I want to clap, I want to shake a little bit. So yeah, so there's a lot of music, and for me, I should not talk so much because I studied music for my bachelor's. It's something that is like, it's part of the culture. It's something that we take so seriously. The singing, the clapping, the percussion, the dancing.
Even at the grassroots level, songs are very strong because most of the time where I live, when I was growing up, I was used to festivals. Actually, every weekend is a festival, and people gather and then they sing songs, and then you find people who dance, and then there are lots of food. So that's actually the way we end the weekend. So when the weekend is coming, oh, there's a festival coming, people get to sing again, people get to dance. You don't have to go to like a cinema house. There's music live on the streets. So you just have to join people and then, so it's participatory, kind of. So it's kind of songs, festivals, actually every weekend, lots of food, people come together.
So,
like you said, it's like more like a community. So everybody come together.
What is intriguing, I'm not a big sports fan. I don't really care. But I do watch the World Cup. And I do know that the Cricket World Cup is going on right now, even as we speak, and I didn't hear anybody talk about cricket. So is there any similar program to promote music as there is to promote sports, which to me it just seems like wasteful entertainment? You know, 5 years from now, nobody can tell you who won the World Series. And nobody can tell you who won the 1953 World Cup. Can anybody in this room tell me who won the 1953 World Cup? There wasn't one. That's why you can't tell me. So the point is, sports is incredibly ephemeral stuff. So is it? But you talk about being in Ghana, they promote football. Do they promote music like that?
Yeah, they do. In Ghana they have musica, the Ghana music, you know, where they have the national office, district office, and regional office where they promote music, and at the end of every year they have music promotion and all those stuff. They have it, they do promote. But in Ghana, music is like part of our daily life. But football is an occasional thing where it's like the team, national team, or children are having a competition and everybody is kind of running behind them. But with music, just walking on the street, because in Ghana, people play music and it's very loud. Just walking on the street, you hear music. Your neighborhood, we hear people playing music, but that's not the case here. And we have, organizations or institutions promoting music.
So you have national bands and national orchestra?
Yeah. And even at the University of Ghana, they have, school of performing arts where they have it.
So there's the Ghana All-Star Music.
Yeah, we have All-Star, that's a group of musicians. They have about 7 or so, they call them the All-Stars. They have, the music is also there. But
in Nigeria, we have Performers Association of Nigeria, and performers involve artists generally. So musicians are also involved.
Olutunji was Nigerian.
So about promoting music, I think the information is here. Like, if you want to know more about music in Africa, if you look it up on Google, there is a lot of information. So speaking of music, I can give an example from Senegal. A few years ago, we had a festival. It was called FESMAN, Festival Mondial des Arts. It was gathering arts, from all around Africa, and a lot of countries from the world, they participated in that festival. So if you want to get more information about it, it was for a whole week. It was for a whole week, and a lot of countries participated. Everyone was performing. It was a really big thing.
Well, your last name for your name you gave, Touré?
Touré.
Touré is also the name of a very famous Malian guitar player, Alifaka Touré.
Yes,
He's from Mali.
And he's on the radio a lot. and he's been dead a long time.
Right. And you know about the Smithsonian, what is it, the Washington DC, was it last year? The Smithsonian Music, yeah, this time around they were featuring Kenyan music and it was amazing. We had Kenyan music artists coming on there. So depending on how you look at music, whether you're talking about the traditional, the folk and all that, the school, the classical, like right now there's a new move, like in Kenya, a lot of orchestras coming up, a lot of opera, things that, like they're just a new revolution. So depending on how you look at music, so much.
And if you listen to Pandora, you can type in, you can get so many African musicians streaming.
Right.
I wanted to ask just something totally different and a little more serious maybe. I've had several students in my classes from Africa, and they've said that they've had a totally different viewpoint coming to the United States being black than they had being in their own country. And that sometimes it was really eye-opening and maybe challenging because they didn't feel as comfortable being black here as they, you know, it was an eye-opener to them. Has that been an experience for any of you? Yes.
Yes, I can share my own experience.
Yes.
I remember 3 years ago, during my first semester here at Ivy Tech. So I was taking a writing class. So it was 093 or 083, I don't remember exactly which one it was. And obviously my English was not as good as it is now. So I was kind of shy because I didn't want to talk. You would just hear French, English, you would not understand probably. Or if you understand, it would be like confusing. So every time that we had something to do, like back home, you know, we speak French, but we learned English in high school. It was mostly it was writing, grammar, vocabulary. So I had a really good standing, I mean, in writing and stuff. I could not just talk. So that was the difference. And it was about writing in that class. So I remember when we had to do some exercise and stuff, and we were doing that on the board. Sometimes the teacher would say something, and when the student writing on the board, I'm like, this is not right. That's not how you write it. So at first, when we were in the group and we had to give our own opinion, they would not listen to us because they would probably say they're not. But the thing is, my sister and I were getting the best grades. We were getting the best grades, and if we were divided up into groups and we had to do something, then we would finish first and would get the best grade also. So the teacher, he was a great teacher. Actually, he was my favorite teacher because he would push us to work into group, you know, to give our opinion and share. Then by the end of the semester, they knew our value. So they knew that probably because we could not talk English, we could talk our own language. They could not talk French. We could not talk English as they could. But the information that we needed for that class, we had it. We had the basic, and by the end of the semester, I remember when we had to divide into group, everyone wanted to have me or my sister because they would get the best grade. So it was that at first, and as you go, it's just about knowing your value. I cannot speak English, but I speak French, and I speak other languages that some Americans do not speak, and they probably want to learn it. And I know what I want to do in my life. You know, I want to be a medical doctor. So I am doing what I have to do right now, but also you have to know who you are. It's about that. If you come from Africa, it's a little bit different. It's a little bit harder, but you just need to know who you are. You need to know your values. You need to respect yourself first. Other people are going to respect you. So it's kind of difficult for a lot of African students, but you know, if you respect yourself, then you invite other people to respect you, and I think that's the idea that people should have, you know, in community and everywhere, not just in America, but everywhere.
And so it's
I
beyond.
speak
Oh.
English. For me, my own challenge is maybe accent. Because I know I speak English, but I don't speak American English, I speak Nigerian English. So at times when I speak, people say, can you come again? Can you say? So at times you have to speak maybe twice or three times before somebody understands what you're saying. So that when you go to class, of course, I know this is a new environment, so I'm willing to accept change. And it's, you know, since I'm not used to American English, it's something I'm going to learn gradually. So, but since I've been here, United States is a place that recognizes hard work. So, and even when you come to class, if you do well, one way or the other, the professor will say, okay, you've done well. The professor, if you do well, the professor will say, okay, you haven't done well. So that gives me because most of the classes I've taken, they have been okay, they have been good for me. I mean, they know this in the class, and that's not the problem. But it's just the aspect of speaking. That's why you come to class, you need to contribute, and then you talk. So, can you come again? you talk, can you come again? So, and at times too, you know, when somebody speaks to me, I'm trying to, please, can you come again to test the basis of coming. So I think the aspect of pronunciation, accent has been concerned, but generally, or more educationally, it's a nice system. And a lot of things to learn.
So it's more about being someone from another country than being black. It's just that, right? I mean, that's more the challenge you find.
Well, okay, to be honest, coming here, of course I knew I was black, but it's not something that ran, like I had to think about, like my
Right.
own experience. I kind of really knew I was black coming here when I got here.
Yeah.
Maybe the experiences I had, maybe, and I'm not using that to judge, I cannot say that that is American, because that also would be very, very naive of me. But sometimes you just meet one person that makes you remember, oh, so I'm black. Why? And that is okay, because in Kenya, we don't talk about skin color. If we talk about skin color, we talk of complexion. We say it's light. We say, oh, the light, which maybe looks for me, oh, the tall, light skinned one. So, so I think it's just trying to understand where you are and what is an issue. I'm not saying race is not an well, to be honest, race is not an issue in Kenya. We have other big issues we are dealing with. Because most of people look like myself. So we either say so-and-so is light skin, so-and-so is dark, is dark skin. But I really kind of thought about me being black and even the color of my eye coming to the US, because I didn't even know the color of my eye. Because we don't talk about the color of the eye, we don't talk about blonde and this, the same type of hair. So that is the experience I had, and I'm not generalizing it, but it gets better with time. And I think it's a good opportunity to help people also understand where you're coming from. And like you said, it's just about, you know, how race will be very, very angry at everyone. One time I'm walking on campus at IU, around, if you know IU campus, around student building, I'm walking towards Sample Gate. Then this lady, from nowhere, I don't know, an elderly lady, she comes towards me. And I see she's getting really close. And then she taps me on the shoulder. You are the real thing of black. Like to me, I'm real thing to being blacker than maybe African American. Like you are the real stuff. You are not natural. And then thankfully I take my time. I don't, and I just say thank you. That is the first one that came out of my mouth. And because what was I supposed to say? Right. And another time I'm going to Valentine Hall. I'm going to teach some early morning. It's kind of cold. Then I walk through the doors of Valentine Hall. Then as I'm walking, I can hear there are 3 ladies, African Americans, right? And they're talking to this lady who looks some maybe from an Asian country. I could not tell. And I could hear, like if maybe I should not be dropping, but they were speaking loudly. This Asian lady was trying to ask where African Studies office is and was looking for the director, who is Professor Samuel Obeng. Then I'm minding my business. As a matter of fact, I'm running late. I'm going to class. Then one of the African American students looks at me and points to this lady, like tells the lady, talk to her.
Oh, my
Maybe she's from Africa, so she should know where Africa studies.
Wow.
So maybe I attract the wrong crowd, or maybe it's just a way of learning. And it's about how do you take it, because these things happen, you don't know who you're meeting. It's about being mature, be the mature person. And I took it well. Thankfully, I knew where African studies go. So now they point that lady towards me and they walk away, they leave me with this one lady, and I'm like, okay, what is it? And then I show her to the place. So those are some of the experiences, and for me, they're not setbacks. They are the fabric that makes us who we are, and we appreciate where we come from. And Americans are lovely people, they are helpful, and like Taiwo said, they recognize hard work, and that's why we could make it here for Fulbright scholarship, and with all the accent, with all the skill thing, and it's all beautiful. It's just about hard work.
Thank you. I think that's a good way. I have some cards here in front. This is for the exhibition that's starting at the IU Art Museum on March 8th. The cards actually announce the opening, and there will be a performance by African musicians. And the dates of the show are in the very small print at the bottom, so please help yourself.